Today's best music.
Magic 89.9.
All right, good afternoon, Philippines. Thank you very much for checking us out. My name is Boom Gonzalez. It's Tuesday once again, November 17, 2 p.m. You know what that means? I enter the chat room, and today is very special because I have some really, really good friends who are going to be with me today. If you haven't seen our social media accounts yet, we've already announced it since yesterday. But anyway, first I want to thank everybody for listening, for those who are listening through radio on Magic 89.9. Whether you're on the road or working from home and just having us in the background, we appreciate it. If you're watching us on Facebook Live, well, good afternoon to you. On Twitch and on the Kumu app. And of course, this will all be available on YouTube and on Spotify a day after. Again, my name is Boom. Today we are talking to my former colleagues. I've worked with them for, at the very least, a couple of years, and I've become very good friends with them. And I am, and people that I've worked with have nothing but great things to say about them, and we're very, very proud of them. They're former UAP courtside reporters who have now either made the transition to news reporting or news in general or current affairs or public affairs, or are in the process of making that transition because, you know, they're just started maybe this year. And we'll talk more about that. It's a special group. We have a lot of great courtside reporters, obviously, in the past. I've been here on the show or been in my radio show, even in past radio shows. But this one is very special in the sense that they're a select group that went to the news department. And that's pretty much our conversation for today. Let's welcome Tina Marasigan, Denice Dinsay, and Catibayan. They enter the chat room today. Hello, girls.
Hello.
Oh my God, it's so good to see you. Let me introduce. I miss all of you too. Let me just introduce you properly. Tina Marasigan, of course, formerly of the UST Growling Tigers. She reported for UST before a couple of years. And then, of course, now we can see her on Teleradio. Denice Dinsay, of course, a former courtside reporter of the Ateneo de Manila University. 1 year as the CSR, then went to do work with us with the PVL, not just as a reporter, but eventually as an anchor, and now works for the ABS-CBN News Channel, and a former courtside reporter of Adamson University, also 1 year, and then did a few gigs with us in the PVL, but in the UAP and the PVL now is representing GMA News with us. Okay, hello.
Hello.
Before, I'm so excited about this episode, and I know I'm not the only one there. I've gotten so many messages since I posted yesterday, whether they're public messages or people have privately messaged me that this was to them a great idea, you know, because of the topic, because of the lineup of who you are, and I guess also, you know, it's a first time for you guys to be together. Before we went on air, Cor has never met Tina, so they're meeting for the very first time. And Denice and Tina only met recently during the elections, even if they both obviously work at ABS-CBN. So let me say three things before we get started. One is I want to thank you for your time because I know now in news you're busier than ever, you know, regardless of what kind of news reporting you're doing. So I want to say that I appreciate your time. I know how screwed up your sleeping patterns and eating patterns are. So I appreciate that. Number two, I am extremely proud of the three of you for what you have done in the UAAP and what you continue to do wherever it is that you're working right now. And three, I really like the excitement that you guys showed me when I kind of proposed this idea to the three of you. You know, you did not even think about it. You didn't, you know, you said yes right away. It was just a matter of getting the right schedule. So I'm so happy that you guys are still enthusiastic about talking about these things. So I wanted to get that out of the way, right? That's for me personally. Okay.
Because it's for you.
Yeah, exactly. What Cor said. For you, Boom, I'm willing to drop everything.
Come on. Thank you, girls. Thank you. okay, I'm not going to go into, let's say, the start of your sportscasting career because you girls have talked about that many times in different shows, even at the start of your actual sportscasting career. But I want to start with Tina first to at least give us, Tina, let's say, a summation of wait. Okay, Tina is okay. We lost Tina just real quick. Hang on. Okay, let me start with. We'll wait for Tina. I'll start with Denice first. Okay, while we wait for Tina Marasigan. I think she'll be back real soon. There, Tina, are you back? Yes.
Yes, I'm back. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was going to say that let me start. I don't want to talk about the start of your sportscasting career anymore. I want to start by asking you, give us a little bit of a, just parang a summary of the whole sports career in a nutshell. In the 2 years that you did sports, Tina, how was it? How did you feel? And, just give us a little bit of a bird's eye view of what happened to you.
Well, I started 2011 and I stayed with UAAP for 2 years. And then I think I also covered for PCCL and I'm not sure if nag-PVL ako pero basta nag-cover din kami ng women's volleyball. Pero after my stint in the UAAP and in ABS-CBN Sports, actually Studio 23 pa nun tapos nag-transition to ABS-CBN Sports and Action. I was assigned to ABS-CBN News already. So I was able to give my service to Teleradyo, to DZMM, also in some stints in ANC and also in the local channel, in ABS-CBN channel for Umagang Ganda. So, ayun, ang bilis ng transition actually, but news has been really my goal ever since I started in ABS-CBN, even before entering to ABS-CBN Sports and Action. So,
that's good that you brought that up. I wanted to talk about that when we shift to the news part of our conversation later. Kasi I wanted to kind of like half it. Mga sports muna konti and then we'll get to the news.
Okay.
But that's a great point that you made. And I guess to end it, I wanted to ask, did you have a good sports experience?
Of course. With Studio 23 and ABS-CBN Sports and Action, I did. And with UST Growling Tigers, talagang the relationship that we formed, even outside the court, kasi I became their friend as well. Mga inaanak ko na yung mga anak ng players and I'm really proud when I see them play in PBA now. Kasi parang ang layo na talaga ng narating. So I really had a good time during my stint in the UAAP and even after, because we were able to take care of that relationship even after the job.
That's good. All right, Denice, give me your general thoughts about your quick sports stint. Well, it wasn't quick. I mean, it was a good 2-year run, but you did a lot of things in those 2 years, Denice. So was it a good experience? How could you describe it?
I feel like good doesn't even cover it. Good is such an understatement. And if I were to even put, I guess, in one word, that whole sports experience was just bitten in general. It felt so unfinished. And, well, I think it was because a lot of that had to do with the circumstance here in the Philippines. But
right.
In general, it was unforgettable. It shaped my values, my foundation, my work ethic. And it was the best start for a career that I can ever think of.
Mm-hmm. We go to Cor Catibayan right now. Cor, just like Tina, and we had this conversation before, I know that you've always wanted to be in news. The wonderful thing that I also love about the three of you being my guests here, because we've had a lot of personal conversations at different times, with Tina before, Denice and Cor. Cor, tell me about your sports experience. You entered, of course, you were a student DJ, of course, with RX before also. And then you made your transition to the UAP. And then, now at GMA News. But tell me about the sports career for a while, as short as it may have been, maybe, I don't know. How do you feel about it? What can you say about it generally?
I think from the very beginning, I entered into, I auditioned for UAAP because more than the sports side of it, I really wanted to learn the how to write and how to tell stories and how to report in front of a camera. And just like what Denise and Tina said, just really unforgettable, great experience. Nothing that I could have ever imagined elsewhere at the time, and it really built my foundation for how I do things today. And the transition was really helpful. I think sports is also a really good background in entering news. My experience firsthand with sports really was a great deal, is a great deal until now, in how to handle pressure, how to, with for example, in the games when there's the crowd is going crazy, how you can manage to withhold all of the emotion and then be able to talk in front of a camera. That specifically helps me a lot until this day. So forever grateful for the experience that I had with ABS Sports.
Tina, I wanted to touch on what Cor was saying about foundation and handling pressure that she got from the sports career prior to getting into news. Ikaw, unique yung road mo rin because there was the pageant scene also, diba? Which is super pressure packed also, for a different form. I mean, I bring this up asking, did it prepare you? Did the pageantry prepare you for sports? Did sports prepare you for news? Were there things that you felt na parang may connection among the three?
Yes, actually, the whole process is like a big help for me to transition from one platform to another. From Binibining Pilipinas, it helped me to gain confidence in facing the camera. Kasi we don't really have to speak much in the pageant, pero we have to project smart, confident. So I guess that's the skill that I learned from the pageant and was able to apply to my courtside stint. And then when I was doing my courtside reporting stint, I was able to gather knowledge, skills on how to write, on how to be concise in delivering what I want to say in a specific span of minutes.
Right.
And most importantly, the connection to the audience and to also the UAAP fans, especially with the UST Growling Tigers fans. And then transitioning from sports to news, medyo mahirap. Kasi from sports, we were dealing with a youthful audience. With teleradyo kasi, our audience kasi is more of mas matanda eh. And the news there is mas seryoso talaga compared to sports. But the skill that I was able to apply is actually the skill of news gathering, information gathering, writing, the script, and again, being able to translate it to your audience in a way na hindi sila malilito. It's like connecting to the person who is actually watching you. Kumbaga yung report mo, it's not for yourself, it's not for the network, it's for the audience listening and watching you. So, I guess naging ganun yung proseso niya. And it really works. And now, may transition ulit. From radio, we have to transition to TV. And then from TV, we have to transition online. So, I guess the process and the learning journey, it will never stop.
Tina Marasigan, of course, is known as one of the more composed reporters from the get-go. And I think that poise and composure really came from all of those, your experience in the pageantry. And obviously reporting in sports, it's not just about being that, but I'm sure there's a bit of confidence that you can get from that you can apply in sports. And I think that's what Cor was also talking about, because you build a little bit of confidence from the reporting that you've done, the crowd, nadadala mo na yan with news, which is a totally different ballgame, which is what I want to talk about a little later. Denice, Um, Tina and Core touched on the fact that they wanted news from the very start. Well, Core hasn't talked about that, and I'm sure she will later. Tina has touched on it. I just know that from a personal standpoint because Core told me things. But what was the goal for you to begin with when you joined the UAAP and sports in general?
I think if anything, really the goal was just to be one of the top female sports anchors in the country. I don't think there's a lot.
Sports, ba? Was it?
Yeah,
really
it was. I think
okay.
I felt I wasn't really into sports from the get-go, but I just fell in love with it as I spent more time with it, studying it, being in that environment. I love the spontaneity. I love the people. Every aspect of sport, it was something that I lived and breathed. Tito Miko Halili would always say that the best part about sports is it's the kind of lifestyle that you can really sustain and enjoy for a long time, if not forever. So but when the pandemic hit and when the franchise issue came up, there just weren't a lot of opportunities in sports. But I was very grateful to have been given the window of opportunity to do news for ANC and a couple of months later for the Kapamilya channel. I would have to say I wasn't the most excited to do news. Friends of mine from high school and college were very surprised to see me doing news, only because I was very firm back in those days and saying I will never, ever, ever do hard news. It was something that I didn't want to get into. Maybe because I knew the intensity of the topic. I also knew the kind of responsibility and the credibility that is required for someone in that position, whether it be a news anchor or a news reporter. And it was something that I didn't want to invest on and also to give my time, because you said it so yourself a while ago. You know, when you're a news reporter, your whole life just turns upside down. Your diet, your schedule, your lifestyle. You give your life away. It's basically an offering that my life is for the public and everything. And that's a whole new commitment that I knew that I wasn't going to get and that I wasn't going to get into. But you dealt with the cards that you've been given, and I've been more than grateful for the opportunity given by ABS. And if anything, it really makes me appreciate the industry even more and more respect, if that was even possible, for the people who were already in that industry, because the kind of work that you put through, and also what Tina said a while ago, the learning never stops. There's a new thing that happens in the world, in the Philippines even, every single day that you have to keep track of to inform people. And it's a lot of responsibility that you carry on your shoulder, because you're in the news every day. People see you. You're capable of influencing what they believe in. So that kind of influence and that kind of power that you have over the audience, it's overwhelming, and you have to be careful how you wield it. So it was something that I realized when I got into the industry and learning through the ropes, and I'm still learning until now.
And that's why you three are also perfect for this show, the guesting, because you're all coming from different directions. You know, you're coming with different mentalities. You're also experiencing different kinds of news reporting. It's not all the same, and you're the way you treat it, the way you think about it, the way you approach it. The three of you are all different, and that's the reason why I was excited to really pick your brain about these things. Two things that I want to say: one, the sports lifestyle is overrated, Denice. Don't believe. Two, it is not overrated if you're Miko Halili, because he's got the best lifestyle. So, siya lang yung makakapagsabi niyan.
He makes it so easy. I think that's why he can say it, and he sells it so well. I was sold.
It's too much of a benchmark. It's too high. So, but he is so, by the way, he's also very happy when he found out that we were doing the show. He was also very happy about this. Here's a question, Core. As much as this was your dream, and we've had these conversations, even when you were in sports, we were talking about this already, and I knew your heart was not, I don't want to say something bad.
Yeah,
your
not in
heart
sports.
was going.
Come on, ganon.
No, your heart was going to the direction of news, and this is after the UAP, okay, not during the UAP, but after the UAP. That's when you were telling me that yun talaga yung tinatahak mo, di ba?
Mm-hmm.
Do you miss it though? Is there an element of it other than the people? I know you miss all the people.
I do.
That goes without saying. We all do. But other than that, is there an element of the lifestyle? Sige na nga, pag-usapan natin the lifestyle of sports.
Yeah. First, just bouncing off from what Denice said, parang nakakatakot yung description niya na parang bearing our souls for the news.
It's an offering.
Kakasimula pa lang yan, ha? Kakasimula pa lang yan. Imagine. Si Tina.
It feels like that, I swear, every day.
No, but I do miss it. I think, from what Denice said na yung quote-unquote lifestyle, nakakamiss yun. I guess, I don't know, for lack of a better term, siguro yung pagka-chill ng sports in a way na you don't, not because in news it's so intense, it's polar opposite, diba? Even if I said it's a good foundation, it's totally different. It's a different ballgame, like you mentioned.
I understand. Yes.
So I do miss it, and I guess being able to wake up in the morning, because like I mentioned, I told you earlier that I work the night shift.
Right.
I'm a morning person, so I miss kind of having my own schedule, and I guess being when I was in sports, even if I was only there for a little over a year. You're at the game for, at least based on my experience. I can only speak for my experience. I'm at the game, 2-3 hours at the most, and then the rest of my day, for the most part, is free. And I like that, but now it's not the case. So that's what I miss, if anything.
Right. We're talking
Apart
to
from the
Cor Catibayan.
people.
Yes, of course. We all miss you guys, and we miss everybody that we work with, of course. We're talking to Cor Catibayan from GMA News, Denice Dinsay from the ABS-CBN News Channel, and Tina Marasigan from Teleradio. You're listening to the chat room. My name is Boom. Tina, did the sports time, when you were doing sportscasting, was there anything negative that you took away from the experience? Any negative, I don't know, whether it's in terms of bullying, social media, discrimination, objectifying. Did you ever feel those things about, because the fields that you are in, let me just segue real quick. Sports and news now. And I had this conversation with Pinky Webb just recently here on the show. It's a great field for women. There's no such thing as, di ba, na parang lamangan lalaki, lamangan babae. No, it's a great field for women, whether it's news or sports, right? Anchoring in news, anchoring in sports. It's an incredible field for women. So I just want to go back, Tina, during your sports time when you were learning all the ropes in sports, and you coming from a beauty pageant background, was there anything negative that you didn't like about the experience?
I think it's having that parang na stereotype ako na Tina Marasigan, di ba? She's a beauty queen. So what is she doing there in the court? Parang ganon. So I think that came in as a negative comment, but I also used it as my motivation to actually perform well in the UAAP. So parang it became a challenge na, hindi lang ako beauty queen. I can actually perform here. I can speak. I can write my report. I can talk to the players and even to the coach. That time, that was Coach Pido Harencio, na talagang one of the fiery coaches in UAAP, right? So it served as a challenge, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. And I guess nagustuhan din siya ng fans ng UAAP.
I think so. And you also served as a mentor to some of the younger girls and guys who eventually joined, diba, courtside reporters during the seminars. You were always there. They were always asking you to give your experience and all of that. And I'm sure that that's something that that is so valuable to all of them who experienced that. Denice, was there anything negative? I know you love sports so much, and I like the point that you made earlier about you feel like there's still unfinished business, which is an interesting thing to say. I want to dig into that a little later. But was there anything negative about the field of, regardless of whether it's the media or sports in general, that you felt during the time?
Well, I think, if anything, when it comes to the fans of sports, they're very critical. Like, if what Tina said, na parang you use it as motivation to even perform even better. That's really true. It's always nice to prove people wrong. And it's really up to you and how you can choose to see these things. So instead of just trying to bask on like, oh my goodness, that was such a bad coverage. I've received a lot of like tags like, oh my gosh, she can't, why isn't she calling the games right? Mm-hmm. I guess it gave me more motivation to keep putting myself and to keep putting in the hours in studying the game to be the best that I can be and to keep improving. It hurts sometimes when you read the comments, because it's like, oh, this is something that I love to do. And every time I'm doing it, I give my heart. I'm excited. I'm so happy. And then the fans just don't see it. Of course, they see your performance. They see the mistakes that you've made and how you're not able to come up to par to their standards. Mm-hmm. But the standards that they set, with that, don't let that be the standard that you'll set for yourself. In fact, even go beyond it. And when you set a higher standard for yourself, those kinds of comments kind of mean nothing, because you are your worst critic, but at the same time, you are your best encourager also. So it was tough with all the comments and what people had to say. But again, at the end of the day, sports is what I love to do. It was something that I was very passionate about, and it was something that I knew I could keep being better at. Mm-hmm. And that didn't stop me.
Mm-hmm. The case of Cor and Denice, very interesting, because in this conversation, the fact that Denice's sports casting career kind of had to pivot because of certain things that happened. So that's why she's saying it's unfinished business. In the case of Cor, it was a short stint, and I say short when you compare yourself to a lot of others, like let's say Tina, who did a full 2 years, right? But was it also okay that it was short because you were able to jump into news right away? Something that you had your eyes set on from the very start anyway? Or meron bang konting feeling na nabitin ka? I don't know. I mean, can you be honest and tell us?
Yeah, I mean, I think it helped a lot that I didn't just do UAAP, but I was given the opportunity to cover for PBL as well as MPBL. Right. So in that, I think for the most part, it served its purpose, and I learned a great deal from covering those 3 leagues, which helped me a lot in my transition to news. So hindi siguro nabitin, but more of I learned what I could with the time that I had.
Okay, so you were able, in your mind and in your heart, you were able to maximize your time.
Yes.
In your opinion.
I was, and I can go on about how much it helped me and how until this very day I use the things that I've learned in sports with with how I cover today. But I think, I was able to maximize my time. And as well, I honestly, really truthfully speaking, would not have been able to obtain the opportunity of covering the news if not for my experience with sports.
Right. Again, you're listening to the chat room and watching us on Facebook Live, on Twitch, and on the Kumu app. And for those listening on Magic 89.9, whether you're on the road or working from home or just tuning in, thank you. My name is Boom. Tina, you've had the most extensive time, among the 3 of you, in terms of the sports and the now news, your transition, na napakabilis, sabi mo nga. And obviously, Denice touched on the fact that fans can be incredibly supportive, incredibly sweet, and then they can be very mean, very, very mean. And that's putting it mildly. But because it's sports, di ba? Sabi ko nga, lagi ko nga sinasabi, sports yan eh. Parang, di ba nga, natural lang sa tao na pumanig. Kasi nga sports, di ba? Papanig. So, I always wondered, is there such thing, or is there such a thing as what Denice and you and Cor have experienced when you were sportscasters? Do you experience that in news in terms of the people tweeting and being mean still? I mean, I can see that very much in sports because they're so invested with their teams, with their schools. But is there such a thing also when it comes to the news crowd, the news audience, of just being mean and sometimes being unreasonable and illogical, maybe?
Actually, mas unforgiving ang audience when it comes to news.
Talaga? Okay.
Yes.
Explain,
yeah, because especially kasi kami as reporters, if we don't have a commentary program, we are not allowed to give our comments or to give our opinion or editorial thing, di ba? So we just give facts. Kaya lang, minsan, we also have our own din kasi. And lumalabas din yun minsan sa pagsusulat namin. And ayun, I also handled a few programs kasi in Teleradyo where I was able to give my comments as well. So minsan, kapag nagbibigay ako ng comments, ano ba, hindi naman direktang sinasabi that they agree or disagree with my comment, but I kind of feel the view of the listener, specifically kapag meron akong i-interviewin, biglang hindi nagpapa-interview. So hindi siya talaga listener. So gusto ko siyang interviewin. For example, may isang specific agency na nagbigay ako ng comment na meron dapat na room for improvement sa specific agency na to. The next time na mag-request ako for an interview, ilag na sila. Kasi the agency already know na nagkaroon ako ng negative opinion tungkol sa agency na yun before. So, doon ko naranasan. And when it comes to the listeners naman, I guess, kapag hindi mo nami-meet, if you're not able to meet what they need, what information they need, they tend to really ask it. Na parang, ang ibalita nyo ganito, ang ibalita nyo ganon, ang ipakita nyo ganito. So they want specific information, and if they cannot get that from you, hihingin nila. So ako kasi as a reporter and as an anchor, kapag nakakabasa ko ng ganon, parang feeling ko, ay wait, kulang ba yung binigay ko na information? Parang nagkulang yata ako kasi may hinahanap pa sa akin yung nanonood. So negative siya for me. Pero when it comes to yung mga bashing, ganyan, parang wala naman masyado. Because they also know that our opinions can be different to their opinion. Right. So, yun yung naging experience ko.
So, in other words, just to summarize it, it's a different form of interaction, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Sa sports kasi very, very, paano ba? Yun nga, very kampihan.
Yeah,
kasi meron kang team May team ka. Dito kasi wala. Ang lawak niya. So it depends on the need of the listener. Kung anong information yung kailangan niya.
Tsaka pag natalo UST, kasalanan mo kasi, di ba, Tina? Ganyan yan diba? These are all jokes that we make. Tina Marasigan, of course, from Teleradyo. Dinsay from ANC. Cor Catibayan from GMA News with us here on the chat room. I want to talk about emotions because we talked about that with sports. Highly invested audience. But you guys as reporters, obviously highly invested in your schools. Tina with UST, Denice with Ateneo, and Cor, who originally is from UP and had to invest her heart and emotions with Adamson. And you did. Like people would not be able to tell that you weren't from Adamson, the way you reacted and reported. And that's a great skill. It's an incredible skill, what you guys do. But correct me if I'm wrong, girls, but I think that's an easier emotion to handle compared to, let's say, now what you guys are doing. Tina, I remember messaging you during the pandemic, and you were reporting, and you were in the studio, and I just sent a message. I said, I'm watching you now. Ingat ka dyan, take care of yourself, and because I know what you guys are doing. We God bless you for what you guys are doing for us. But I know that it can be so exhausting mentally and emotionally. Denice, you were there on ANC during the shutdown, and you had to report, and everybody was emotional. You could see whether it's Ron or Tony, whom I both worked with for 7 and 8 years when I was with ANC.
They were mad, by the way. Like,
right,
oh my
that
goodness.
I was watching, I know. That I worked with them, yes, I know. No, but I mean, these are the emotions. And then, Cor, you're in the middle of a storm. We were just chatting recently na sabi ko, hey, huwag ka magkakasakit because what you guys are doing are just, it's great for all of us, obviously, to keep informed. I want to start with you, Denice. How do you deal with that? Because you still have to be a professional now, and you're a baby when it comes to news reporting, right? I mean, and I'm not saying that in any negative, insulting kind of way.
I admit that.
So, diba, how do you, balance and process and all of that? And I want to ask you, Cor, after Denice also, please.
I think to start, it would really have a lot to do with like choice. Again, the shift to doing news really, it happened in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
So
you're the classic case of pivoting.
Yeah.
Like pivot, yeah.
Literally, I woke up the next day, there's no more sports. Okay. News. It didn't start out as easy.
Right.
It took its toll on me. I think for a couple of months, I really was depressed. My family saw it. It came to a point that I was like really considering, my goodness, do I still want to do this job? Like,
we talked about it.
Yeah.
Remember? Yeah.
You were there. I was like on the verge of tears. I was crying over the phone. Like, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, I'm so tired. I'm not happy. But you make that choice. I think you were telling me during that time that, okay, once you decide on something, you really have to go like all on it to be the best, because everyone deserves the best of you the same way that you deserve the best of you also. And it was a lot of denial on my part, because for the first couple of months that I was doing news, I was like, sports is gonna come back. Like, it's gonna happen. The league is gonna come back. Everything's gonna be fine. So my mindset coming in doing the news was just, okay, this is just something temporary. It's something to fill in the gaps, something to fill in the space while there's no sports. But you reach a point in your life, you reach a point in this year, and you reach a point in quarantine, and you're like, okay, COVID isn't going away anytime soon. I don't know when the vaccine will come. And now SNA is, I don't know if it will come back. I mean, fingers crossed, we're all praying that it comes back on air. But I can't keep holding on to that. And I have to make a move, and I have to move on with my life, because I can't keep getting stuck. And I think it was when I finally made that decision of, okay, this is something that I'm choosing. I think that was when the switch happened, and it was like, okay, everything now when I do, I don't think the emotional attachment to doing the news ever goes away, especially when you report about murders, when you report about people getting raped, when you report about
people dying.
And it's just
typhoons and all
exactly.
of these things. Yeah,
it's like, it was really stressful going to work last week, knowing that I'd have to report the damages left by either Quinta or Raleigh, how many people are missing.
Right.
And this year has been like bearer of bad news in general. So, but I think it was important that I realized that what was my job was to inform. My job was to deliver news and to keep the people informed of what was going on, because it's not about me. It's a public service.
Yes.
And keep the focus on the audience, because they deserve to know and they should know of what's happening. And when your eyes is set on that and not on yourself, I'm not saying it becomes easier, but it becomes more bearable.
And let me just interrupt by saying also that I hope people are not judging you when you express these emotions that are real, that you went through or going through in your transition from sports to news, and it being a very heavy experience still until now. You shouldn't be judged, because it's a different story for everybody, and it doesn't mean you can't excel. I want you to hear that from me, that doesn't. I've said this when you guys were courtside reporters. Everybody's got their own learning curve. Everybody's got their own different path, and the pace of learning is also very different. But that doesn't mean you all cannot be excellent, right? So even if your road is a little different, maybe tougher, maybe because you're making it tougher on yourself because of the love that you have for sports, doesn't mean you cannot be excellent. And like I said, you're at the opening stages, and we are not seeing the best from you yet. That's for sure. Cor, you're witnessing these things live because that's your beat. You see these things, the murders. You were there in the typhoon. You're reporting on all of these things, and I'm sure it's going to get worse in terms of the experiences that you're going to have. And I'm sure you're ready for it. I hope. How are you dealing with it emotionally? And even because mental health is a topic, right? And it's an important topic to talk about. How do you deal with that and reconcile everything?
There's a lot of debriefing that goes on when I get home. My family is a big help. And right after, when I get home and then I come from covering, yung sinabi niyo, murder left and right,
typhoons,
typhoon.
May bus pala, tama?
Yeah. And it's funny, as in literally, kailan ba yun? Saturday lang ata. That's what I covered, in the middle of the typhoon, ha?
Wow.
So, anyway. But yun, and there's a lot of debriefing that goes on. I come home and then I sleep for a while because everybody at home is still asleep. And then when I wake up in the afternoon and then it's lunchtime or maybe even close to merienda, then I have to make it cuento, kasi that helps me. That helps me cope with what just happened or what I just witnessed at the time. And their input also, and parang so that I don't feel like ako lang yung nakakita, what I mean? Even if I am, but it helps a lot. And as you mentioned with the mental health and all, you have to be mentally strong talaga to be in the thick of things. To be, I mean, there's just so many, hindi naman so many, but just a bunch of stories that I've covered na parang, I guess with any other, I mean, I don't want to say na parang ako like malakas ako, like I can take it. Not to be like that, no. But I think I've been able to condition my mind, because before I used to, I was so like I couldn't even watch horror movies or mga crime movies kasi natatakot ako eh. But now after almost a year of covering I cover the crime beat. So
police
after
beat, right?
a year,
yes, that's right.
Police crime beat. After a year of covering all of these kinds of stories, nakakanood na ako ng horror movies or crime movies, because it's like it's not so bad.
Ang ganda. Nag-translate dun no? Sa personal level.
That's yun yung effect.
Nice. We're talking to Catibayan and Denice Dinsay na Marasigan of GMA News, ANC, and Teleradio, respectively. I have a question for the three of you. I go back with Tina. Do you guys have personal lives? And take that as whatever, form in terms of the question. I speak, I guess, a little bit from experience from a different side of it, as you three know personally, but how much of your personal life is sacrificed when you're already doing news? The only reason why I bring this up to the three of you, because we don't, unless you're incredibly super on demand, the man, the woman in sports, I don't think that's much of an issue. I think you can still make choices in sports where you can just drop this for a few months, take off, and then, do these things. News, you can't do that as much as you can, I guess, when you're a sportscaster, because there is a certain commitment to the audience, to your boss, to the network. And please correct me if I'm all making this all up in my head. But going back to the original answer, how much of your personal life gets sacrificed? Family time, traveling when we could still travel, whatever. Tina, I start with you.
The hardest part that I have to face until now with my personal life that I'm trying to balance with my career as a journalist is whenever my mom or my dad gets worried for me.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the hardest part. Kasi kahit ano namang sabihin kasi ng boss ko, Tina, you cover this, you go here, you go there, report to work at 12 midnight, stay up until 5 a.m. or graveyard, I will do it. Kasi talaga from the very beginning, I'm expecting my work to be like that. So ready ako and I will be glad to do it. Pero hindi kasi maaalis sa family that they get worried for you. Of course, with the current situation that we are in, there's COVID-19, with the threats in doing news, hindi maiwasan na matakot sila for me. So
when you say threats, are you talking about like actual threats to your life?
Yes.
Is that what, in general for journalists and people in media, that's what you're talking about, right? Just to clarify for our audience. Okay, go ahead, Tina.
Yes, and I also had this experience na ako mismo nakakatanggap ng threat because of a certain segment that I did. So may takot sa family ko, and I can only tell them that I'm okay and I will be safe, but of course it will never be enough. So I guess yun yung pinaka affected sa personal life. Kasi ngayon, I'm really motivated to work eh. I'm really talagang career-centered yung isip ko. So, kung may...
More than ever before, you're saying. More than ever before in your life.
Yes. So, kung meron mang conflict sa time or may conflict sa, balancing work, life, I guess, nagagawa ko kasi yung gusto ko, so okay lang. Pero kapag affected na kasi yung psyche ng parents, of course, hindi maalis yan eh. Oo. That's a bit challenging for me. Kasi parang, gagawin ko ba to? Cover ko ba to? Nag-worry kasi si mami eh. So, paano ko ba babalansehin na huwag na lang siya manood? Parang ganon. So, yun yung difficult part for me.
Very interesting answer. Very interesting angle. Tina Marasigan, of course, telling us about that. The only threat that I ever had in my 18-year sports career was somebody who's going to spit on me after an Ateneo LaSalle volleyball game. That's the biggest threat that I ever had. Nobody has threatened. There have been a lot of sipain kita or whatever, but I mean, this obviously, when you're in media, journalists, you're in news, these are things, especially in this time, diba? These are things that are very, very serious. Personal life, Denise. Is that possible? Have you been able to figure it out already? Does it exist even?
Yeah, I think if anything, suddenly getting into news, I'm able to prioritize my personal life more. Because with sports,
Really?
since
Interesting.
with
Explain.
because with sports, there's a spontaneity. Yeah, there's a schedule when it comes to the games, but there's also schedules for interviews that just pop out in the last minute or like the day before, that I'd have to cancel my plans in the last minute. There are so many times, and my friends can attest to this. They hate me for it, but so many dinners that I've missed, big events of some family members, my friends,
Right.
because of it. But now there's something about news it's very routine.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
Yeah.
just to clarify for the audience, now Denise is a studio news reporter as of the moment, okay? Just so, because there has to be some sort of distinction when I go to core later. So you're saying the structure of news reporting from a studio, from ANC, in your specific job right now, has given you more freedom in your personal life. That's what you're saying? Am I right by saying?
Yes. Because compared to Tina and Core, I'm not a reporter. I don't do beats. It's not yet. So it's really just staying in the studios. Even for the Kapamilya channel, doing the advisories, it's really just staying in the studio, and there's a set time for that. So, and the same way for ANC, like the 5 to 6 p.m. So again, that's every day. Same with the news advisory. It's 2 and 4 p.m. every day for weekdays.
Right.
So there's a set schedule. The weekends, it's something that I really have for free, and I recognize my privilege, and I'm very blessed also to have it, and that's why it's not something that I take for granted.
Right.
Knowing how I'm able to have this kind of freedom right now with my personal life compared to what I had before.
Right.
That I'm able to spend more time with my family. I think if anything, like really the most that I've given up is really just being able to file long leaves for travel.
All right.
But that's impossible right now because of the pandemic. But I remember having this talk once with Sir Ron, who's my partner in ANC. So I told him, what's the longest time do you think I can leave and you're gonna be okay with me leaving? And he's like, 1 day.
Yeah.
So it's really the leisure that you give up. But aside from that, my friends and also with my family, they remain the priority. I think if there was one thing that the pandemic taught me, I've always been career driven pre-pandemic, but during the pandemic, it made me want to treasure my relationships more and to put the people in my life first.
Yeah, right. Well, good for you.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that. I mean, again, one of the reasons why I love the combination also of the three of you, you're tackling and you're answering this from very different directions and coming in from different angles. And I don't want to assume that Core, you're coming from the opposite side, but I suppose what Denise was talking about, that she has to do interviews all of a sudden, this is what you are now going through with beat reporting, right? So personal life, how about that?
It's okay to assume that it's the opposite. It's because that's what it is. Two things kasi. Number one, my days off are Monday and Tuesday. So that's on weekdays when everybody else is supposed to be working. And number two, the second thing is that I work night shift. So doble patong-patong na because when I work night shift, so baliktad yung oras ko. When I get home, everyone is still asleep, or when I'm about to sleep, that's when everybody's awake. So thankfully I still live with my family. Then, as I mentioned, it helps with the debriefing and all. And they being the most to me in the entire world, so I always try to make time, even if it's sacrificing my sleep. I do, because parang if I can cut short my sleeping time to spend a little
Just
bit
to be with them.
just to be with them for like maybe 1 or 2 hours before going to work, before they go to sleep,
Right.
then I'll do it. So that I
Bata
can
ka
join
pa eh,
for
kaya
dinner.
kaya mo pa yan, Cor. You can do that for the next 5 years, believe me. So do it while you can.
I'll make the most of it. Yeah,
Yes,
that's exactly.
that
Kaya
is the
nga.
one advice I'm gonna give you. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but and similar also to what Tina mentioned earlier, yung the worry of my parents. I was just having a conversation earlier with my mom about my whole
Hi,
week
tita.
and and how crazy my week has been. I was telling her about it, and then she said, "But see, if I parang even if I worry, had I not let you go into what you're doing, or had I held you back, you would just because of my worries, you wouldn't have been able to, you know, do everything that you're doing right now, and you wouldn't, it builds your character also. So that's a great deal, their support, and which is why I really sacrifice my sleep, just to be able to spend a couple of hours with them. But it's for the most part sila lang yung nakikita ko. Like even my friends, wala na. They're sorry, but
Right.
yun.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to wish it to be worse. Obviously, I hope it gets to a point where the three of you, get a certain rhythm. Like let's say in the case of Denice, where you get a not necessarily structure, because not everybody is going to have a structured schedule, but a little bit of a rhythm in your life so that you will be able to make time for it. But right now, hey, Core, I'll be the first one to tell you, go, just do whatever you have to do. You have the energy, you have the youth to do it. So, you don't feel, I don't think you're going to feel burnout, anytime soon yet, because you're at this, you and Denice are in this absorbing stage right now.
Yeah.
Something that Tina went through already and is still going through, just at a different stage, because the learning never stops, as Tina mentioned, and as you very well know. Tina Marasigan, Teleradio, Denice Dinsay of ANC, and Catibayan from GMA News with us here on the chat room. Again, thanks for listening. Magic 89.9 on Facebook, watching us on Facebook, on the Kumu app, and on Twitch. We're towards the end of the conversation, and I want to get to this part by telling you a quick story, a personal story, which I've shared with the three of you in different stages of your lives. Anyway, at least our conversations. When Denice was talking earlier in the show, she sounded like me. I mean, she reminded me so much of myself with this story that I'm going to tell you. I don't know what year it was, but I was with ANC also for maybe 7-8 years while doing, sports with Studio 23 and SNA and Ball's channel. At the time also there was another sports cable channel. And I started segueing, doing, not just sports stuff, but pop culture stuff. And then eventually headlines, you segue to doing headlines, top of the hour stuff, as Tina and Denice now know. And at one point when Maria Ressa was still, our boss there in ANC, she called me into the office and, the topic, the conversation at that time was a morning show that she was asking me if I could, consider being part of it, which eventually I couldn't do because I was doing radio. And until this very day, I still love radio, so I couldn't do it. But part of that conversation was the question that she threw at me at the time. I don't know if this was 2006 or 2007, when she said something like, now that you're doing headlines regularly, do you want to start doing news? Segueing to a little bit of news. Like TJ, because TJ was doing that already at the time. And TJ, just like Cor and Tina, loved news also. TJ is a natural investigative reporter. He's always been like that, even back in the day. Even for sports, he was always into digging stories, even for sports. And without batting an eyelash, I said no. And I have no regret saying no during that time. Because like Denice, I loved certain things, and radio was one of them. Sports was another thing, and I just didn't have any interest for news. And I felt like if I did this without being 100%, which is what we talked about in our conversation, Denise, on the phone, I wouldn't be able to excel in it. You know, I wouldn't be able to improve. And because I also had a lot of other interests which were non-media related. So I said no. Right. I didn't sleep on it. I didn't think about it. I just told Miss Ressa, with all due respect, I think I'm doing you a disservice by being in news. You know, that's how I felt. Like, you're going to regret this. Headlines, it's okay. I read off the prompter. It's fine. I don't have to interview people on the phone. So anyway, cut the long story short, the reason why I'm telling this story is the point I'm trying to make is that I am incredibly impressed by you, the three of you. You know, I salute you for the transition that you've done. Whether it's a transition that was smooth and fast and a willing transition like Cor and Tina, or a transition with some pushback in the case of Denice, and she's still doing it. I mean, my hat's off to the three of you and what you guys are doing and the things that you're doing for us. You know, people who are idiots like me who cannot do the news. You guys, we're living vicariously through you. That's why I often message you guys to please, hey, be careful, take care, all of these. So I just wanted to put it out there that don't ever sell yourself short, the three of you, because you guys are doing such great jobs, okay, whatever it is you're doing. Okay, back to you. What are the baby goals and what is the main goal? If you may share that with us. Tina, I want to start with you. Now that you're in this stage of your career, what are the baby goals and what is the big goal for Tina Marasigan?
Okay, baby goal, I think it's really to maximize what I can do for my career. So be successful in what I'm doing right now with ABS-CBN, in Teleradio, with franchise or without franchise. Just maximize whatever I can do for the network and of course for the audience. That's just the baby goal. But the bigger goal, I think I'm gonna go personal. In the future, I still want to be a wife, a mother, because from my observation, if I will place that as my biggest goal, yung career, I mean, baka mawala yung personal eh. I'm quite scared. Kasi parang, with my observation with a few of my colleagues, parang naiiwan yung side na yon, yung personal side na yon. So, which is why I asked the question earlier.
Kasi nga parang, I know for a fact, you know, I've been in the newsroom for a long time also. I have these friends, I have you guys, and I have friends and all of that. I have a little bit of history that. So I was concerned for myself also. I didn't do what you guys were doing, but I could see it with other people. So yes, go ahead, Tina. Sorry for interrupting you, but yes, this is an interesting answer. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's currently I'm working on my baby goals.
Right.
So to maximize everything that I can do for my career. Pero the long-term goal, the biggest goal is to be a mother, to be a wife, to have a family. And if that will require me to stop working, I should be able to prepare for that moment. If my presence will be needed in my house, in my family.
Right.
But kung ngayon ako kasi tatanungin, parang hindi pa.
Right.
Kailangan ko munang gawin yung gusto ko for myself before giving myself to my future family. Parang pagdating ng anak ko, masasabi ko sa kanya na, anak, nagawa ko na lahat yan. Masaya na ako dito sa bahay, alagaan kita. So, but for now, I'm working on my baby goals.
Okay. Having said that, Tina, and I'm not trying to, I'm just not even playing devil's advocate. I'm just going to ask a question. Did you ever see that it is possible to juggle both? Or in your opinion, because some people have done it, but everybody goes through different experiences, right? Different lives. We can't compare. I used to tell you guys that during your courtside reporter days. Well, don't ever compare yourselves with others. Is it a consideration to do both, or really, in your heart, you're going to just make a choice that it has to be this lang?
If I if the situation will allow me to do both, why not?
Okay. So you're open. Okay.
Yes, I am open, but I'm not sure kasi kung gaano kataas yung demand kasi of becoming a mother. So right now siguro masasabi ko pwede kong pagsabayin kasi I'm totally in love with news, with what I'm doing right now. So yes, siguro pwede kong pagsabayan at gusto ko sanang pagsabayan. Pero I cannot really say if this will also be my answer in the future.
Correct. Yes.
Diba? If may family na talaga ako, baka kasi magbago. And I should be open to that possibility as well.
Tatanggalin natin sa YouTube tong show na to pag huwag ka mag-alala, Tina. Pinawag muna. Okay. This will only last for a couple of days. That's it. Denice, small goals and the big goals. And I'm very interested also with your angle because of the conversation of you feeling that there's unfinished business with sports. Does that also mean that if there's an opportunity, will you jump back? Will you do both like some people have been able to do and pull off very well? Maybe that's something that you want to trailblaze, right? Also, but it's an opportunity maybe to be the first woman to do this and this and this. That's also another angle, but this is just me dreaming for you. But what say you for the small and the big ones?
I think for the baby goals, it's aside from being the best news anchor that I can be, I do want to explore all platforms. Being in ANC for almost a year, I would have never thought I'd be doing a Tagalog newscast. Like, never in my wildest dreams. I've had people laugh at my face when I've told them, oh, I do Tagalog now, apparently. But if there's one thing that I've learned is really to just keep my options open, enjoy, and the best thing that I can do right now is just be the best so that when things open, I can do it. I remember you telling this to me, Boom, you have to be the top of mind of people. And if I were to say a baby goal, I want to be the top of mind when it comes to producers, whether it be on television, online, radio, that, if they're thinking, now, who can do something like this? I want to be a name that's considered on their head. And
right.
I wasn't able to solidify my name in sports.
No, don't say that. No, don't say that. Don't say that.
I hope one day I get to build on that. But right now, my focus is also building a name and enforcing credibility also on my name in news, that I'd be someone that people will, when they know that I'm the one reporting, this is true. This is the truth. I can rely on this. I know that she's going to give me something that's valuable and that's knowledgeable. And with fake news and misinformation left and right that we're seeing, I want to be radical. I don't want to follow the waves. I want to make my own. So I think those are the baby goals. With the big goals, surprisingly, I know I'm super young, but I get what Tina was saying about just having a family. Because there's really nothing like influencing your own family. It's one thing to influence people. Sometimes it's even easier to influence other people. But the kind of responsibility that you have when you're influencing your own kids and when you're training them also, that's a whole new ball game of its own. And that's also something Tina was saying, that's something that you really have to prepare. And I've always been so vocal about that to my parents, that right now it's really all about career, focusing on maximizing what's given to me right now, the opportunities presented by the network, by everyone, enjoying life to its fullest at this certain stage. But at the end of it all, really the end goal is just to have a family, to also mentor not just other people, but mentor my own kids and have have that kind of mindset that I have and impart it to like your own blood. So like I'm really with Tina on that one, on really building. Nothing says legacy than seeing it on your children. Like there's your career, there's your name, but a successful, a loving family, it's not everyone can boast that, and not everyone has that, because a career is something that you keep working on, but a family, that's like, there's no time out. Like you can't just, okay, I need to take a rest. It's something that you have to keep working on. You have to keep praying about. And from the minute that you are finally ready for that, you have to go. It's not something that, I'll just dip my toes, I'll just test the waters. There's no such thing. So yeah, same page with Tina on like having a family. That's the end goal.
Well, I mean, when you talk about top of mind for your kids, you have to be top of mind.
Exactly.
Yan ang ultimate top of mind. Hindi pwedeng hindi. Cor, what say you? What are the baby goals and what's the big goal for Corinne Catibayan? Catibayan, sorry.
For
so strange calling you Corinne. I'm sorry.
I know. Naging Corinne, no, sa news anyway. I think my baby goals on a personal level, very minor, but I think it would be a great deal if I am able to find a balance with my routine and my health, being able to fit in exercise, working out. Those are some of the things that I strive to be able to
dancing.
Get the hang of. And dancing again. I haven't danced in a while. So all of those minor things that I know would be of great help to me and the way my health and my lifestyle. And being able to spend more time with my loved ones as well. That's all, the every day-to-day goals that I try to set. Big goals, I think, would be to, I want to study again. So that I'll be able to hone my writing, my reporting, and be able to put that into use when telling bigger and greater stories to a wider population or a bigger group of people, to be able to tell better stories for those who, to help make a difference with the stories that I tell. And I think studying again in the years to come will help me in achieving that goal. And I guess, the end goal, similar, I guess, to also what Denice and Tina said, but that's, for me, that's far in the years to come. And now for siguro 8 years, and thinking of 5 to 8 years from now, studying again, and then hopefully being able to tell better stories to influence greater group of people.
Do you want to be an anchor, Corinne?
I do.
Be a lead anchor, is that something in
I don't wanna preempt it,
No, I mean, it's just like, do you want to be?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's there also. Right. And I think being able to, parang I wanna be the anchor that is also, if you throw her in the field, then she's a seasoned reporter. You know what I mean?
You've earned your wings and you paid your dues.
Yeah.
But anytime they throw you back there, nagawa ko na yan, sige, game lang. Bigyan mo lang ako payong. Kahit wala, okay na.
kahit hood lang. That's there also. And I think that's why it's great, like where I'm at now, because it's all the steps, slow steps, and
yes.
that will lead me to that direction.
Right.
And every day is I learn something new every day that I know will help me also in the long run. And another thing that I also want to cultivate is my interviewing skills as well. The way I ask questions. Because
don't watch the show. Don't ever watch the show in your own time.
But that's also something that siguro kasama na yun sa baby goals because I try to cultivate that every day when I'm out and talking to different kinds of people, from all walks of life. So interviewing, asking the right questions, finding balance in my routine, and then in the long run, anchor, hopefully it's there.
Yes, we are all rooting for you. The reason why I asked this to the three of you and is the whole baby goals and the big goals, because you can't get to the big goal if you don't go. I mean, I don't know if I've ever said this to the three of you, but I don't believe in skipping steps anyway. So you really have to put in the work, earn your wings, and do the unglamorous stuff that people don't see, right? Regardless of field, news, sports, accounting, it doesn't matter. I mean, there are some values that don't change, whether you're working online, whether you're working on TV, radio. You can't skip the baby steps, the baby goals, so that you get to the big goals. So that's why I wanted to ask that. Okay, parting words from the three of you. We're talking to Tina Marasigan, Teleradio, Denice Dinsay from ABS-CBN News Channel, and Catibayan from GMA News. Tina, before I let you go, is there anything that you want to say to everybody, whether they idolized you, whether they love watching you, whether they don't like you or don't like your opinions, or at one point maybe disagreed with you? Is there anything that you want to say before we take down the show in a couple of days?
Well, I'd like to tell everyone that we do the things that we are doing as journalists, not for ourselves, not for our family, not for our network, but for you, for the Filipino people watching us, hearing us, because you need information. So with the current situation of ABS-CBN having no renewed franchise, please know that we will be here. We will still be here. We will be maximizing all possible platforms to give you the right information and to fight false news. And as we do our service in giving out news, we will also continue to give public service to our kapamilyas. And kahit magkakaiba po kami ng network, GMA, TV5, CNN, ABS, we all do the same thing. We all have one goal, which is to give service to our country. So, friends kami. and we are friends because we love the Filipino people. We love the Philippines, and we believe that we can be a better country. So, maraming salamat po, and I will see you around.
Denice?
Matt, I don't know how you can top something like what Tina said. That was actually like perfect closing remarks. That's everything that we feel.
Thank you.
Thank you po. Tina said it all. But really, if anything, I guess thank you also to the audience who continue to trust us, who continue to watch. And the best is yet to come. We are always learning on ways on how to hone our craft and to deliver the news the best way that we can. And that's why we study. That's why we learn. I mean, Cor was just saying a while ago also how she wants to take her master's. We're all wanting to pursue excellence.
Right.
For the public, for the audience, because each one of us already has a role here on earth, and this is ours, and we plan to do it to the best of our capability and ability.
Cor?
So, yeah.
Thanks, Denice.
I think what we do first and foremost, if not, the most important, is that it's a public service. It's never about the people who you see on TV, the ones reporting the news. We are merely the messenger, I guess you could say the bearer of bad news for the most part. But, at the end of the day, it's never about us. The stories we tell are always, your stories are always the stories of the Filipino people that will hopefully through the platform that we have, make a difference in one way or another in their everyday lives, in their day-to-day lives. So, stay the course, keep fighting for whether if it's for in relation to everything that the both of you said, press freedom, it's so important these days and every day actually. And the people need to be informed now more than ever about what is going on and what the future holds for the sake of our country. So thank you, maraming salamat. Thank you for watching. And also, I just want to say also thank you so much, Boom, for putting this together, because when I received your message, just like what you mentioned kanina na we were so excited. Really, truly, I was ecstatic when I received your message, because it was so nice not only to hear from you, but be able to speak to Denice and Tina, some of people that I learn from as well in the industry. So thank you for putting this together, Boom.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you for taking time. Really, I appreciate the enthusiasm, the excitement, and the time. Obviously, that's the biggest thing that you have shared with me, and the experience to our audience. Let me leave by saying this: goals will change at some point. That's just how it is, because times change. Things that happened around us change. Obviously, we know that from this year. So the goals will change, and that's okay. It's okay to be adaptable, and that's the word that I really think about when I think about you three. Again, we started this conversation of women in sports, and then transitioning to news. It's not an easy thing to do. Like I said, I would not have been able to do it. Just cannot, and that's just one of the things that I admire about the three of you. There are many other aspects, but we'll run out of time to talk about that. So I'm a fan of the three of you. I used to work with you, and now I'm just a fan of what you guys do. And we thank you for your service. I also want to do a quick shout out to those who transition to other fields, right? I mean, I just chose this topic of sports today and news, but there are, of course, some great courtside reporters who made the transition to a lot of other fields, whether it's business, whether it's showbiz, like, the OG Gretsch, who I worked with 04 to 06 or something like that, Gan, of course, Leah Cruz, one of your predecessors, Denice, one of the best to ever do it also in sports, and went to weather and did news, and Riza Diaz, who just gave birth also, transitioning to sports news reporting too. So there's a lot of you. You represent some incredible women, some empowered women, and some talented women who are really, creating your own paths. And we will be watching, and I'm always a text away for you guys if you just want to vent about something. So I want to thank you. Tina Marasigan from Teleradio, Denice Dinsay from ABS-CBN News Channel, and Catibayan from GMA News. Remember those names, because you're going to be saying those names for years and years to come. We are all now leaving the chat room. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week from quarantine here in Singapore. Bye, everybody.